All right, we're live. Welcome to the show. Consulting. That's what we're doing. Consulting Talk Live. My name's Russell Pearson, and I help consultants grow their consulting practices. But today, on these shows that we have every Thursday at 9 a.m., I talk live about questions that have been submitted either through consultingquestions.com, which is where you can put in your own questions and we can have them answered there, or through the live chat. So you can absolutely add to the chat and let me know if you've got any questions. So today's question is about value. So one of the people who submitted a question said, I'm creating all these valuable assets, but no one really seems to want them, right? And they're certainly not generating clients. And so they're talking really about like lead magnets, things of that nature. For those who don't know what a lead magnet is, it's a resource of some value, ideally perceived value to the person that you would like to engage as a lead, and they will exchange their contact details for this free resource. Now, there are all sorts of different versions of what that might look like. They could be a guide or a white paper, potentially, just an article or a video, maybe a small training course, checklist, calculator, all these different things that you can actually create. But interestingly, when it comes to whether they are valuable or not, really value is in the eye of the beholder. So, one of the things I ask people who are struggling with those lead magnets converting is to ask them about how do they know that it's valuable. Actually, that's coffee, by the way. The how do you know if it's working? I think is a better place to start before you even get to that. So, when it comes to lead magnets that you would put up onto a landing page, we call these squeeze pages because there's only one thing that you can do. You can either move through the form that means that you're applying to receive the lead magnet, or you leave. All right, there's only two options. It's a binary choice. One of the mistakes that people make when they're creating these lead magnets is they'll actually put it on their website, and their website has navigation. And as soon as you've got navigation involved, there's multiple different paths that people can go, which means that they do tend to run off in those different directions, and they don't narrow in to actually focus in on the path that you've created to create the lead. So if your landing page is not converting, it's converting at less than 16%, that's not working. All right. So it should be performing better than that. In fact, the majority of lead magnets that we create these days are performing better than 30%. And many of them are 60 and 70%. We've even had them as high as 90. We've got 100%, but only for a short period of time. But let's say 90% with some of those lead magnets as well. So if it's not converting well, usually it comes down to not just what it is, but the actual wrapper on it. So if people are not buying your product, if people are not engaged or like downloading your lead magnet, it's rarely to do with the lead magnet itself, although that's a consideration I'm going to talk to in a minute. It's usually much more around how did you describe the thing? How did you offer the whatever it is, the thing? And we have three simple steps that we have on most successful lead pages. Number one is to show what it is that they're going to get. So show the checklist or the guide or the cover of it or whatever it might be. So visualize it. Have a result that it gets for people as the headline. So defining a result. You can actually go to russellpearsonprograms.com and you sort of get the sense of this. Actually, I'm not sure if it's on there at the moment, but you can also go to russellpearsonprograms.com/advisor. You'll see a perfect example of this that works. It's the advisor with an OR, so ADIVISOR, right? The other thing is a simple call to action. So like people are clear on what they need to do to get it. So let's take all those things into consideration and say, all right, that's working. And maybe it is the actual lead magnet itself, because often people perceive value through their own lens. And because most of the people I work with are absolute experts in what they do understand the challenges that their clients have. They understand the pathway to get them a result, and they're very clear about that. The problem, though, comes up when they perceive or think that the prospect or the client will have their level of understanding of the issue, will actually have their level of understanding of the pathway and their level of trust that they can get the result. And so they're not putting themselves in the shoes of the prospect. They're not putting themselves in the shoes of the person who's going to be making the decision. And if they were to do that, they would very clearly see that, let's say, for instance, they were offering, I don't know, a free consult or something like that. They'll see that their hours worth of time that they believe is valuable that they're giving up is actually, for the other person, their hours worth of time. And so if they were sitting on the other side of the client, they understand that if someone's going to give them time, that's a real like commitment to you to give time, because time's often more valuable than money. Um, so you've got to make it easy, and you've got to make it easy for them to say yes, and it needs to be highly relevant, yeah, and highly valuable to that person. So I want to quickly talk about the two different types of value that are worth considering in here. You've got logical value and you've got emotional value, and they're two very, very different drivers for engaging any offer. And I've got a couple of notes here. In fact, I've got a scorecard that I created, which I might release soon, but that's a scorecard that we've actually got. And it talks about the logical drivers and the emotional drivers for value. Interestingly, there are 5 logical ones and there are 6 emotional ones. In actual fact, emotion has much more to do with whether someone will make a decision to take a step forward than the logic, right? Logic tends to be, all right, well, I've already kind of made the decision. Now, why did I make that decision? And they start thinking at it from that point of view. So the logical drivers, but like usually it's like quality. People think, oh, this thing is better, right? Or it'll make us more. And sometimes people don't want more. Sometimes people are overwhelmed by how much they've already got. They can't handle more. So here are the logical ones. So can you help people reduce their risk? Yeah. Can you help them reduce their cost? Can you help them reduce their effort? So reduction, reduction, reduction. So that's 3 out of the 5 of reduction. Then can you increase their result, and can you increase the speed to result? Can you accelerate their outcome? So they're the logical ones, and most consultants will stick to that logical ones. There's a lot of compliance-driven consultants. They're smart individuals. They understand the details, but the emotive side of thing is actually far more important. So here's the emotive drivers. Will it create certainty in the prospect's life, or perceived certainty? Will it create variety? And that's one of the reasons why people have like entertainment, for instance. And entertainment is often an easier sell. Although these days there's so many distractions, there's so many different options when it comes to entertainment. That's a challenge in itself. But people will tend to move to entertainment rather than work, right? So variety is one of those things. So certainty, variety. You've got significance, which is a big one. Will this make the person feel more significant, or move them toward being more significant? Right, that's huge. Love and connection, especially in today's day and age, there is such a disconnect, and a lot of that's because of the digital world and what we're doing there. But I think the ability for someone to feel heard is a large part of that love and connection piece. Growth will enable people to grow. Now, that doesn't have to be more all the time. It doesn't always have to be bigger. It can be better quality of. Yeah, growth is quality of life as well. And contribution. Will this enable them to feel like they're contributing? Yeah, because again, back to the love and connection thing, there is a real want for, I think, a lot of people to be part of something that's bigger than themselves. So contribution. So on the logical side, we've got reduced risk, reduced cost, reduced effort, increased result, increased speed. And on the emotional side, we've got certainty, variety, significance, love and connection, growth, and contribution. Now, again, this sheet that I've got actually gives you a score on how much value you're creating in this. But then if we want to take that one step further, how do you make quantifiable value? Because you can get much more specific in each of those areas. Is there something where you can quantify to time? Can you quantify to amount? Can you quantify to dollars? Quantifying those things, getting more specific about them, is an absolute key. And the other thing is, like, often, again, the consultant is sitting on the side of value going, well, this is valuable. I know it's valuable because I know the results that it can give you. But the person on the other side doesn't perceive that. So what do they perceive? What is their point of view? What's currently going on for them? Yeah. Do they have other priorities which will get in the way of them saying yes to your priority? Because there are too many things in their life and they have to put them in some form of order. Yeah. Are you using your language or their language? Yeah, that's a big one. There was a time when a lot of marketing people would say, don't use jargon. And it's completely false. You should use jargon, just not your own jargon. Use their jargon. Use the jargon of your audience so that you're actually speaking their language. And in doing that, you're creating much more specificity and relevance for the person that you would want to say yes. And this is how we increase the conversion rate on some of these lead magnets and conversion rate on sales and on all the other offers that we create. So more specificity, more relevance, yeah, more putting yourself on the side of the person who would make that decision and understanding what is valuable from their point of view, because your version of value is not always the same as theirs. So I'd love you to put your own questions in. Now, I don't mind if you put them in the chat. We can pick them up and use them in a later show. Put them in the comments. Go to consultingquestions.com and you can put in a more thought out question that you might want to submit, and we'll take that and use it in a future episode. If you want to let us know your name, we'll mention your name, and we'll send. And there's a place to put an email too. But that's just so that we can send you the recording afterwards, so that we let you know when we're going to go live. So this show is my opportunity to sort of give an unfiltered conversation with you. And so I would like that to be an unfiltered conversation. I want to have those questions, because one of the things that I'm noticing probably more now than I ever have, and maybe that's because I just noticed it, right? Versus it actually may have always been there. But I find that smart people, which is the people I work with in particular, don't like looking stupid, right? Which means that smart people will tend not to ask questions, yeah, and which means they're not likely to take those risks to ask questions in public. And I think that the opportunity for you is to be that smart and confident person who can ask a question in public, understanding that it's not just you're asking the question for. It's a whole bunch of people who are also holding on to that question and not saying it out loud. And so you are 100% helping more people than yourself by asking the question, keeping those questions inside, trying not to look silly, trying not to look weak, or whatever the perception might be, is it's a way to pretty much stay where you are. There is what got you to here, and there was all sorts of things that you did, and you asked questions, and you did study, and you did all the things that you did to get the qualifications, to get the experience. You've made mistakes in the past. That's how you got to where you got here. But what got you to here won't get you to there. And what there is for you is going to be different for every single one of you who's watching this. So what there might be is actually moving your business into a place where you're finally achieving the amount of income you want. Or maybe it's not about that. It's about, all right, well, I've got that income, but I want it to be more meaningful work. I want to focus in on a different audience. I want to actually impact the world in a better, more significant way. Or it could be much more about family, or it might be about you, right? You've worked hard all these years. It may be time for you to go, I want some sort of balance. I want some sort of flexibility in the work that I do. I don't want to always have to be grinding all the time. Well, there is so many leveraged ways to run a business these days that enable you to, yes, have the lifestyle and have an amazing income at the same time. And that's the sort of stuff we teach in the Forge and the Consulting Guild. Interesting, the Consulting Guild is, if you don't already know, it's a place where a peer group of really experts, the people who've got deep expertise, decades of expertise in whatever their different area is, but they come together to ask those questions and to have those conversations and to be part of a peer group community that enables people to stretch and grow and be more through the whole, and having that community around them. It's not a support group or anything like that. It's a place where we can have those peer group conversations. It is a high level conversation of people who have real expertise, and they're all in different areas. So some person over here who's incredibly knowledgeable in health can help those people who are incredibly knowledgeable in finance, and vice versa. There are different areas, different expertise, and that's what I love about the consulting profession, is that there are so many. It's just a melting pot of amazing, smart people who ideally, if they're open to it, are willing to have these conversations, are willing to ask questions, are willing to, sometimes take a few risks. They're able to put themselves in a place where they can 100% help more people because you've got the expertise. Yes, you're going to help yourself through the process, and that's part of value. Even on that point on value, one of the things that we recognized is that people create value through the creation of value for others. All right. So it tends to be a 10-to-1 proposition. If you can create $1 million for someone, you should be able to collect $100,000 worth of value. Now, that won't always be the case. I think the opportunity and the want for you is to actually create more value than you're receiving in the world. It's going to open your opportunities more. You're going to you'll have more people come to you off doing that sort of work because what you spend here goes to someone else. But you're creating $10 million of value. You're pulling in $500 to $1 million in quantifiable value for you, your family, your business. And so, how do we create that value? Well, number one, we need to be able to quantify it. We need to understand what the person on the other side, the client, is valuing. So that we not only just have an engagement with them once, and that's what I see a lot of consultants do, is they have this one engagement, and it's by the books and it's to the spec and all the rest of it, and then there's no follow-on engagement because the experience wasn't great. And that's why the logical isn't always the best part of the offer. The emotional, it makes a huge difference. If you can bring those emotional drivers in, the certainty, the variety, the significance, love and connection, growth and contribution, if you can bring those things into the work that you do, you start getting long-term clients. You start getting clients who work with you for a lifetime of business. And then you get out of the grind, because the grind is 10 clients, another 10 clients, another 10 clients, where the leverage model is I get 10 clients, 2 move on for whatever reason, but I've still got 8, I get another 10, I've got 18. And often it's not about having more clients, it's about having higher value clients. And we do that by actually having enough clients that that we have a waiting list, that we have more than enough opportunities to raise our prices. Not very few people are actually charging what they're worth, but raising our prices, making sure we're focusing on outcome expertise, not just expertise. Your expertise are great, but can you apply them to get results, quantifiable results that are valuable for your audience? And so there's a lot of conversation in that. But that's what I want this to be. I want it to be unfiltered conversation between you and me. We can talk about this. You can type stuff into the chat. It can be comments. It can be questions. It can just be conversation. I don't mind. I just want to have this conversation with you. We do all these sort of things behind closed doors, as I said, in the Forge and the Consulting Guild. But I want to have more conversations with you out there. There is an opportunity for us to have an understanding, and those understandings really come from conversation. If I sit inside my bubble and go, "Oh, well, I know what I'm doing. I am the king of my castle," and I don't stretch outside of that, then again, my own experience is limited. Yeah, especially if I'm teaching, because that's one of the things that I do a lot of. I do education and teaching and training. If I'm just teaching people what I know, I'm not learning. So I want to be out there for the process of my own development, my own conversation. Like, where is the world moving to? What are people saying? What are they thinking? What has changed for you? I want to hear from you. So let's have that conversation. Put it in the chat. Send me an email, russellpearson.com. You can always hit me up there. And hopefully the spammers don't this, but if you go to russell@russellpearson.com, you can absolutely send me an email direct. Russell's spelled SSL, right? The way Russell should be spelled. Until next time, this has been Consulting Talk Live. Stay passionate, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.